I still get tightness in my throat when I talk about it. Like something in me remembers. Like it never completely let go, only realize something was wrong when the girl in the mirror didn't blink when I did. She just kept staring, unmoving, unblinking, like she was waiting for me to notice something I wasn't supposed to see. A few years ago, my girlfriend and I planned a weekend trip to Eureka Springs, Arkansas. She's a fan of ghost stories and haunted places, and when she heard about the Crescent Hotel, which calls itself America's most haunted hotel, she immediately booked us a room. I didn't take any of it seriously. I figured it was just a quirky old building with a spooky backstory, perfect for Instagram pictures and maybe a few creaky noises at night, just tourist bait. We were assigned room 218, which we later found out was one of the most active rooms in the building, according to the ghost tour pamphlet they handed us at check-in. The woman at the front desk gave us a strange look when she saw the room number. "You're in 218? She said softly, almost like she was surprised we hadn't asked to switch. "Well, it's got a nice view," she added, and then smiled, but it felt like a forced smile. That should have been the first warning. The room itself wasn't too remarkable. Old pine paneling, a creaky floor, a slightly musty smell like aged wood, and faint perfume that had sunk into the walls. There was a tall antique mirror mounted on the wall near the bathroom. It had one of those ornate carved frames and that slightly warped silvery reflection that only old glass has. My girlfriend kept commenting that the mirror gave her a weird feeling. I told her it was just the age of the glass making it look funny, but if I'm being honest, it made me uneasy too. Something about it just felt off, like the reflection was close but not quite right. We went on the ghost tour that evening and heard all the stories. The Irish stonemason who fell to his death during construction, the little girl seen running through the halls, and most disturbing of all, the story of the doctor who used the building as a health resort and performed questionable medical experiments. The tour ended appropriately outside our door. "Room 218, the guide announced. Known for unexplained footsteps, slamming doors, and the occasional visitor in the mirror. Everyone laughed. We didn't. That night, neither of us slept well. I kept waking up to the sound of footsteps above us, like someone running across the ceiling. It wasn't pacing, it was frantic, uneven, like they were searching for something. Around 3 a.m., I heard a heavy thud directly above the bed, like a piece of furniture had tipped over, or maybe someone had jumped. My girlfriend whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded but didn't say a word. My mouth had gone dry. The next morning, I asked the front desk if anyone was staying above us, but the woman simply said the floor was under renovation. Nobody had been up there for weeks. We should have left. That was the smart move. But we had another night booked, and neither of us wanted to admit we were scared, so we stayed. I tried to act like everything was normal, but I couldn't stop staring at the mirror. That night, while brushing my teeth, I noticed something strange. At first, it was just a shadow, a shape moving behind me. But when I turned to look, there was nothing there. Yet when I looked back into the mirror, I saw her. A pale girl with long, dark hair. Her eyes were too wide, her face blank, her mouth slightly open, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. I turned around quickly. Again, no one was there. I stared at the mirror, my heart racing, and saw only my own reflection, pale, shaken, trying to keep it together. I called my girlfriend into the bathroom and told her what I saw. She didn't laugh. She didn't even question me. She just walked over and turned the mirror to face the wall. "Let's just not deal with that tonight," she said. We went to bed with the lights on. Sometime around 4 in the morning, I woke up again, this time to a whisper. It wasn't a word. It was just the shape of one hushed breath right next to my ear. I sat up quickly, and the first thing I noticed was a mirror. It was turned back toward the bed. We hadn't touched it. My girlfriend was fast asleep. I looked into the mirror again and saw her only in the reflection. She was sitting upright, her eyes wide open, staring directly at me. I turned to look at her in real life, still lying down, still asleep, breathing slowly. When I turned back to the mirror, the figure was still upright, but it wasn't my girlfriend anymore. It was the girl. The same pale girl from before, closer now. Her head tilted slightly, like she was studying me. Then her mouth opened too wide, inhumanly wide, and though she didn't make a sound, I felt the scream echo in my chest. A second later, the mirror cracked. A single thin line split down the center, perfectly vertical. We left the room immediately. Didn't pack. Didn't check out. We slept in the car with the windows cracked and the dome light on. When we returned in the morning, the front desk clerk didn't look surprised. "Room 218 does that sometimes," she said, flipping through her notes. "Most guests don't make it through the second night. We never went back. But sometimes in certain bathrooms, when the lights flicker just right and the mirror warps the reflection just a little too much. I swear I see her again just behind me, watching, waiting." I always double lock my hotel doors, so when I woke up to the sound of the handle jiggling from the inside, I knew something was wrong, especially because I hadn't touched the door all night. It started as just another business trip. I'd been in Washington, D.C. a few times before, but this time the company booked me into the Omni Shoreham Hotel. I was told it was a historic place, classy, quiet, and close to the venue. When I arrived, the lobby felt like something out of another era. Grand staircases, chandeliers, polished marble floors, and staff dressed like they belonged in a 1940s film. The woman at the front desk smiled warmly, but her fingers hesitated slightly when she saw the screen. "You've been placed in suite 870, she said, almost under her breath. "That's a special room." I raised an eyebrow and asked what she meant. She just shook her head and gave a polite shrug. "Some guests request it, others avoid it." "You'll be fine, sir." That last part felt rehearsed. I didn't push, just took the key card and went up. The suite was beautiful. A little dated, maybe, but clean and spacious. Old world charm. Plush chairs, thick curtains, and a huge bed in the middle of the room. It was the kind of room that looked expensive, even when it wasn't. I remember sitting down on the couch and immediately feeling like something was off. Not threatening, just unusually quiet. I told myself it was the insulation. Old hotels had thick walls. That night I got back from dinner around 9 p.m., and the lights in the suite were all off, even the bathroom. I was sure I'd left the lamp on by the bed. I chalked it up to housekeeping, turning everything off, and went about my night. As I settled in, I noticed the temperature kept fluctuating warm, then suddenly cold enough for me to see my breath. I checked the thermostat. It hadn't changed. Still, I ignored it. Travel exhaustion, jet lag, imagination. At around 11:45 p.m., I turned on the TV and stretched out on the bed. That's when the bathroom door creaked open slowly. I paused, waited. No footsteps, no voice. I figured it didn't latch properly, but I got up and closed it tight, making sure it clicked. Not a minute later, it swung open again faster this time. I got chills but tried to laugh it off. Old hinges, draft, hotels have quirks. Then the TV shut off, remote still in my hand. Batteries fresh. I turned it back on, staring hard at the screen. Nothing unusual, just the news, no sound. I adjusted the volume, nothing. Then it suddenly blared at full volume before cutting out again completely. The screen went black. I stood there feeling that sort of vibrating silence you only notice when something unnatural is happening. That's when the door handle turned from inside the room. It was slow, metallic, a click like it was unlocking. Then the handle jiggled, not from someone trying to enter, but like it was preparing to leave. The bolt hadn't been touched. I crept toward it, heart pounding, and just as I reached for it, the door swung open slightly, as if someone had stepped out. But no one was there. The hallway was empty. I didn't hear footsteps. Didn't hear anything, actually. No humming from the vents. No distant chatter. Just silence, thick and buzzing. I closed the door, triple-locked it, and sat awake for hours with the light on, watching the bathroom door move slightly every few minutes. Not a gust. Not a slam, just enough to say I'm still here. At some point I dozed off sitting upright in the armchair, the remote still in my lap. Around 3:30 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of wheels squeaking outside the room. I peeked through the peephole. A housekeeping cart was parked right in front of my door, but there was no one pushing it, no one in sight. It just sat there, perfectly still, like it had been brought and abandoned. When I opened the door a few minutes later, it was gone. The next morning, I told the front desk what happened. The man behind the counter didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly and said, "That's why some guests don't stay an 870 more than a night. But don't worry, it usually doesn't follow anyone home." He smiled. I didn't. I haven't been back to D.C. since. But sometimes in quiet hotels, when the lights flicker or the door creaks open just a little on its own, I get this feeling in my chest like something recognizes me, like the room remembers. I kept wondering why the room smelled like rotting meat, but I only realized something was really wrong when I noticed the shape under the bed was breathing. I had been solo traveling through Japan for a couple weeks. Tokyo was my final stop before heading home. It was late October, and I was exhausted after an 18-hour day of sightseeing, eating, and navigating crowded subway stations. I checked into a modest hotel near Shinjuku. Clean, quiet, no frills, just what I needed. The woman at the front desk barely looked up when I gave my name. She handed me the key and said in broken English, "No cleaning staff. Room untouched 2 days." I nodded, figuring I'd just straighten things up myself. I didn't care. I just wanted a bed and a hot shower. The room was weird. It looked fine at first glance. A single bed, small desk, beige wallpaper. Not overwhelming, just faint like something sour. I assumed it was the drain or maybe old pipes. I opened a window and figured I'd ignore it. After a long shower, I climbed into bed and tried to fall asleep. I remembered checking my phone one last time, 12:37 a.m. That's when I heard it, a soft creak, like weight shifting on wooden slats. It came from directly under me. I froze. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it just hotel noises. Old building, cheap frame, maybe even the heater. But then it came again. Creak, slow, deliberate, followed by something even worse. A breath, not mine. I held perfectly still, trying to convince myself it was just my own paranoia. I listened hard, barely breathing. And I swear I heard another shallow inhale, then an exhale. The kind you hear when someone's trying not to be heard. It was so quiet, but unmistakable. There was someone under the bed. My skin went cold. Every instinct in my body screamed to move. But I didn't want to startle whoever or whatever was down there. I didn't want to alert it. I sat up slowly, trying not to make the bed creak, and then it creaked anyway, louder this time. But I hadn't moved. That meant they had. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I leaned over the side of the bed, heart pounding, and angled the light underneath. There was a man, curled up, his eyes wide open, just staring back at me. For a second, just a second, neither of us moved. And then he scrambled, fast, animal fast. He wriggled out and darted past me, crashing into the desk, knocking over a chair, then slamming against the wall as he stumbled toward the door. I backed into the farthest corner of the room, too stunned to scream, too terrified to chase him or try to stop him. But he didn't leave. He just stood there, hand on the doorknob, breathing hard and smiling, not like he was amused, like he knew something. He looked at me with this dead, tired expression and said, "Didn't think you'd come back so soon." Then he opened the door and walked out. That was it. No yelling, no fight, no begging or threats. He just left like it was his room. I waited a full 10 minutes before I moved. I didn't check the hallway. I didn't even pack. I grabbed my phone, my passport, and my wallet and ran barefoot to the front desk. I told the woman what happened, but she looked more annoyed than surprised. She called someone security, maybe? I don't know. All I remember is her sighing and saying in Japanese something like, "Again?" They moved me to another room, but I couldn't sleep. I just sat against the door with a chair under the handle until morning. I filed a report with the police the next day, but they said the man must have snuck in through the window before I arrived. No security footage, no break-in signs, no way to prove anything. I left Tokyo that afternoon. I haven't stayed in a hotel alone since, but I still think about his voice. Didn't think you'd come back so soon, as if he wasn't expecting me, as if he thought the room would stay empty just a little longer, as if I wasn't the first person he'd waited for, or the last.